Hello, today I'll be reading my story called Bog, the Monster Under the Bed. Bog was the monster under the bed. He was very, very lonely. He had no one to talk to, no family, not even any friends. Poor Bog. All he wanted was a friend, and he had set his mind on someone. The girl who slept above him every single night. But the problem was, he was scared that she'd be scared of him, and he didn't want that. One evening, Bog was trying to pluck up the courage to come out from under the bed. He had made a little present for the girl, a card with sequins, pom-poms, and other weird things stuck to it from the things he found from under the bed. He was hoping if he gave her a present, she'd be his friend. It had taken him a whole week to make it, but he was still scared. What if she doesn't like it? No, she'll like it, but what if she doesn't like me? There was another problem too. The girl had recently gotten a thing that was small and furry. It looked a bit like Bog, but smaller. That thing kept sticking its nose under the bed. He could smell Bog, and Bog was terrified. But he was more terrified of what the girl would think of his present. As he was thinking, the thing was looking for a nice place to nap. When the girl wasn't looking, it jumped into a drawer filled with soft clothes. Bog decided to give the present to her, even if she was going to be scared of him. But when he was just about to, he heard his mother call, "Dinner time!" He had been too late. A drawer slammed shut. Then, woof! What was that? Woof! There it went again. It seemed like it was coming from the drawer. What could that possibly be, he thought. What if it's an evil monster? Bog closed his eyes. But wait, if he saved the girl from this monster, she definitely would be his friend. He slowly crept out from under the bed with the present so he could leave it on the bed. He immediately felt the cool air, very different from his stuffy home. Woof! It was getting louder. He walked towards the drawer, very, very slowly. Woof! Bog wanted to turn away, hide under the bed. But then he remembered the girl. He slowly opened the drawer and a furry ball jumped into his arms. Surprised, he dropped the present and it fell with a loud thump. It had broken into pieces. This was bad, really bad. Not only was the present broken, but the monster was none other than that thing. The plan was ruined. He sighed. He placed the dog on the bed. Then he heard something. He slowly turned around and froze. Standing in the doorway was the girl with her mouth open. She had come to see what had made that sound. Bog didn't know what to do. His present was broken. He had nothing to give her. She's definitely gonna scream, he thought, closing his eyes, ready for that horrible scream. But then something strange happened. She smiled at him. "You found my dog. I was looking for her everywhere." She ran up to him and squeezed him tight. "I knew you existed." She stopped. Bog was looking at his broken present with a sad look in his eye. "Oh, is that for me?" He nodded. "Well, you've given me a present and found my dog. What kind of friend would I be if I didn't return the favor?" Bog felt a warm fuzzy feeling inside of him. For the first time, he smiled. The girl brought her dog's bed, then added some pillows around it to make some fluffy walls. Finally, she laid a blanket on top of it as a roof. It was a lovely pillow fort, just for Bog. "Now you don't have to sleep in that tiny space anymore," the girl said. "And it will make it easier for us to play together." Bog's dream had finally come true. Bog was the monster who shared a room with a human girl. He had someone to talk to, a friend. Bog was happy. That's the end of the story. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Leo. Today's story is about the competition that is held in a boring world and an owl called Jack. Let's start the story. Jack's work had nothing. It made everyone bored, and Jack can fly even though he has wings. It makes him more boring. On Saturday at noon, the eagles came from another planet and they held a flying competition. Everyone was so excited. Only 100 people could join that competition. People had chosen randomly, and luckily, Jack had chosen. Next day, Jack got a uniform number for competition. It was number 89. The competition is held on Sunday, 2 weeks ahead, and Jack needs to be able to fly. He was so excited, but he was also nervous. So, he started to practice flying. On Monday, Jack tried to fly from top of his house, but he failed. On Tuesday, Jack trained by himself at home for 30 minutes, and Jack tried to fly from top of his house, but he failed again. On Wednesday, Jack got advice from his father and tried to do it for 30 minutes. Jack trained by himself at home for 1 hour and tried to fly from top of his house, but he failed again. On Thursday, Jack ate a meal twice as normal. Jack got advice from his father again and tried to do it for 1 hour. Jack trained by himself for 1 hour and 30 minutes and tried to fly from top of his house, but he failed. Jack almost gave up, but he tried just one more time. On Friday, he did his usual training, tried to fly from top of his house. Finally, he did it! He could fly. His family was so happy at that time. He cried. He thought that day was the best day of his life. When the game started, Jack saw many big birds. Jack felt scared, but he tried his best. About 1 hour later, the competition finished. Sadly, his rank was 89th out of 100. Jack was sad, but he was also happy that he was just to be in the competition. And Jack thought he was quite lucky because the rank was exactly the same as his uniform number. The competition made everyone excited and happy. Oh, it's time to sleep now. Have a good night.
Hello everyone! Today we're going to be reading another story. This story is called Sally the Whale. It's about a young whale where she escapes her home and tries to find a better life up upon land. But something goes wrong. Here, come, let's listen. One lonely whale family swam beneath the depths, while fun, energetic humans danced just above their heads. Sally, an only child, was so jealous of this law. Sea creatures could not go up to the surface. That made her bawl. She hated her parents for this, and all she wanted to do was escape from the abyss. She would go to school in such a bad mood that, no matter what, she would always be rude. She had no more friends because she was weird, and all she became was to be feared. She argued with her parents more and more, and after that she just slammed the door. Then she composed a plan. She would be happy close to land. It was perfect. She would leave in the middle of the night, and she could forget about this world. All her friends, all the fights. She fled her home, not knowing where she would go. She followed the path all down the road, saw that she could finally be free, and believed that this was the only way she could truly be happy. She tripped on a hard shell and wondered if it was well. Turns out its name was Shelby, and that made Sally swell. Shelby told her of the hideous things that Sally was going to do, but Sally just covered her ears and turned all blue. Shelby wasn't going to leave her alone, though, so she packed her bags and made sure that Sally was not to be disowned. Miles and miles to a journey upon land. Sally thought about her parents being glad. Then Sally woke up to a strange, weird call. Turned to see a ginormous narwhal swimming at the wall. "Please, sir, I think you misunderstand." He said, "Leave this place, or I'll kick you out with my hands." They did, and were hungry like mad. They didn't have any food, so it made them both sad. But in the distance, they looked like a sunken ship that thought it had some food and ran to it with a skip. After eating the food, the place was filled with sharks. Not in a good mood. Leave this place if you don't want to get hurt. Sally and Shelby quickly fled and ran as fast away because they were both upset. What felt like days, but Sally knew that they weren't too far away, was a pretty beach, and when you saw it, you'd fall to your knees and be lucky that your eyes ever caught it. Sally saw what she'd come for all along, but Shelby knew it was wrong. Sally's mouth dropped to the ground, and her eyes sparkled like jewels in a crown. Shelby said, "Okay, but I'm sorry, I won't take another step." She turned and left while Sally stared and leapt. She quickly noticed that nobody was here, only humans in the ocean, and she felt really weird. She was all alone once again, and knew she regretted her decision. She wanted to go back to her seashell home, and swam away, and returned back to see that she wasn't alone. Now she understands what really made her sad. She was lonely, and then all was happy and glad. Well, that's the end of the story. I'll see you tomorrow. Be sure to come back. Goodbye.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be telling you a story. A story about a big, fluffy, white unicorn named Chad. Chad is a unicorn and he loves to eat lasagna. He eats lasagna all the time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Chad only eats lasagna and he's never eaten anything else in his entire life. Chad isn't good at anything. He lazes around every day eating lasagna when he's hungry. Chad was desperate to find something he was good at. At school, Chad joined a lot of clubs to find something he was good at. At first, he joined the cooking club. "I like eating. Maybe I like cooking," he thought. But sadly, Chad ate all the food before it was ready, and he got kicked out. Next, he joined the rugby club, but sadly he got kicked out because he thought the ball was lasagna and ate it. The last club Chad joined was the chess club, but he lost all the time because he just couldn't stop thinking about his beloved lasagna. Chad ran home crying, but on the way back home he saw something. It was a poster for a lasagna eating competition. "Maybe I can win this," Chad thought, so he signed himself up. Chad went to the nearby town where the competition would take place and started talking to the other competitors. They came from all around the world just to try and win the lasagna eating competition. It was the day of the competition, and the hosts unveiled a giant lasagna, the biggest lasagna in the world. But Chad was scared. He wasn't ready to eat a lasagna that big. The winner would be the person to eat the most lasagna. Everyone started to wolf down the lasagna, but Chad started slowly. He ate and he ate, but he couldn't even make a dent in the lasagna. It took many days. Everyone else had already given up, but Chad never did. He ate and he ate until the lasagna was finished. Chad had done it. He had won. The crowd started to erupt with cheers for him, and the judges presented him with a giant lasagna-shaped trophy. Chad was the happiest unicorn in the world that day, not because he won, but because he finally found something he was good at.
Hi, and welcome to another bedtime story. Do you believe in magical creatures? I do too. Tel No the elf is an elf that has super pointy ears and is short as a scooter. He is part of the royal castle in charge of the safety of the elf kingdom. The elf kingdom was a beautiful place with blue skies and fluffy white clouds. But the elf kingdom's people are getting more scared and frenzied by the day because of the approaching meteor that will make their planet go bye-bye. One day, as he thought of how he could solve this problem, he started looking out at the other planets with his super telescope. But he had seen it many times before. But then he spotted something. A blob that resembled this planet. He immediately informed the queen and set off on his trusty spaceship to see if the planet was suitable to live on. And if it was, he would call the elf military to help take over it so they could live there. As the blob grew bigger and bigger, it looked the same as the planet he had lived on. Desmond was so happy until he realized that he might not be so lucky. So blinded by joy that he didn't notice the black hole slowly pulling him and his spaceship inside. He frantically pulled the reverse lever to full power, but it didn't work. So Desmond had an idea. This was dangerous, but if it didn't work, but he needed it to. So with a silent prayer, he pressed the spaceship's bullet button and fired it at the void. But nothing happened. Desmond panicked, his palms getting clammy and his heart thumping loudly in his chest. He had no more time left. So without any choice left, he used his last resort, the eject button. Desmond, with an elf mobile in hand, shot off like a little comet in space, pummeling towards the planet. As he fell down and down, blobs started appearing everywhere. They became bigger blocks, and then faces that had weirdly shaped and had no pointy ears. He crashed down in the middle of the park. Luckily, he had a body as tough as nails, despite its size. What looked like blobs had become incredibly tall, with weird and short ears that were rounded at the top. Desmond was very confused at what type of being they were, but he thought to himself that it didn't matter anyway, because he would just call the elf kingdom military force to wipe them out so they could live there. But as he took out his elfmobile, a little being started to walk to him and said,
I'm the ruler of this planet. Its name is Goldilocks. I know you want to take over this planet, and I hope there will not be a war. And we will fight if needed. But have you thought about the beings you were about to destroy? How many families would you kill? See, we are also beings that have feelings. Just look over there.
He pointed the stubby finger behind Desmond. Desmond, curious and a bit guilty, started to look behind him. He saw a wooden bench with a tree as a shade. Then he saw an elderly grandmother reading a little being. He could fondly remember his own grandmother reading to him like that. A storybook, as the little being smiled and laughed merrily along. He saw two little beings playing some sort of game when they were hopping on numbers and a leg to try to get to the end. One of the beings started skipping towards him and smiled at him, offering him to play with them. He turned his head back to the little being, and he realized that the little being was still smiling and offering him to play with them. So, with his curiosity piqued, he slowly followed the little being and started to copy what they were doing. Desmond thought it was incredibly fun and started laughing with happiness. The little being laughed happily along too. He then slowly turned back to face the ruler, his heart a mixture of guilt, happiness, grief, and a whole bunch of other emotions weighing heavily on his chest. Desmond desperately just wanted to leave this planet and find a new one, but he knew that time was running out, and unless he could step on it, his planet would be destroyed along with the people. So Desmo took a deep breath and said, "Ruler of the Goldilocks planet, I know you don't want to give up your planet, but for the people of the Elf Kingdom are in deep trouble. And unless we can find a suitable planet, we will all die, and this is the only suitable planet." The tiny ruler looked up to the blue sky deep in thought. When he turned around with a smile and declared, "I have a solution. I know that you think that the only way to live on this planet is to take it over. But what if we could just live together?" Desmo, looking absolutely baffled and thrilled at the idea, smiled happily and said, "Thank you very much for your kindness. I will not forget this." Desmo was a happy elf and lived happily ever after. And that was the story of a brave little elf who learned that little compassion goes a long way. Now it's time for you to sleep. Good night and sleep tight. Don't let the bugs bite.
Once upon a time, there lived a very cunning and mischievous fox. He used to speak to other animals sweetly and gain their trust before playing tricks on them. One day, the fox met a stork. He befriended the stork and acted like a very good friend. Soon, he invited the stork to have a feast with him. The stork happily accepted the invitation. The day of the feast came, and the stork went to the fox's house. And to her surprise and disappointment, the fox said that he could not make a big feast as promised, and just offered some soup. When he brought the soup out of the kitchen, the stork saw that it was a shallow bowl. The poor stork could not have any soup with its long bill, but the fox easily licked the soup from the plate. As the stork just touched the soup with the tip of its bill, the fox asked her, "How's the soup? Do you like it?" The hungry stork replied, "Oh, it's good, but my stomach is upset. I can't take any more soup." "Sorry for troubling you," said the fox. The stork replied, "Oh dear, please don't say sorry. I have some health problems and I can't enjoy what you offer." She left the place after thanking the fox and inviting him to her house for dinner. The day arrived and the fox reached the stork's place. After exchanging pleasantries, the stork served soup for both of them, in a narrow jar with a long neck. She was able to have the soup very easily with a long bill, but the fox obviously could not. After finishing hers, the stork asked the fox if he was enjoying the soup. The fox remembered the feast he himself had given the stork and felt very ashamed. He stammered, I better leave now. I have a tummy ache." Humiliated, he left the place running.